if the numbers work, wherever it is.
Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Property Question Time. I'm Stephen Galpin and joining me are Tricia Harvey, hi, and Mark Harvey. We see here in Docklands is that overseas parents will actually buy an apartment for their kids to come and study here, and then they'll either put it on the rental market or sell again after that, college period is over. What do you think, Trish?
If it comes, then get ready for the January sales and buy all the houses. I think if you invest properly and you do it as a business, up or down, it's either a buy or a sell or both. A buy, it's either a sell or a hold strategy or both. So analyse what's going on in the market. I don't think if you do it properly, you should be able to do it in any market.
Mark, your question. Are there any particular areas of the country that would be better for investment in HMO properties? I live in London, but I'm thinking that perhaps in the Midlands or further north, where the competition may be less, could be better.
From what I can see in the market, then people are going further north to make their strategy of HMO work.
Up to north.
But this whole thing about less competition.
What did she say?
I'm not
Leave
sure.
Leave him alone.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about the less competition, and this, I think that's a whole different subject to talk about, the competition thing. But each place has got to have its due diligence, because at the end of the day, if the numbers work, wherever it is. The demand needs to be there, so there needs to be a demand for a certain level of rent. And then there's going to be a cost associated with owning or and running a property in whatever area, and these costs are going to be different wherever it is, and those numbers need to stack up.
Yeah. But what about the sort of consumer demand, if you like? I can see in London that competitively priced HMO accommodation is going to be very attractive, because I'm just thinking around where we are. You can be paying, £850,000 to buy a one-bedroom flat. You could be paying £600, £700, £800 a week to rent it. So the possibility of renting a nice room in a properly presented HMO could be quite attractive. Does that opportunity arise in the same way in the Midlands?
I think in the Midlands and the further north you go, like a HMO is a blatant HMO, like an affordable living, let's say, or like what do we call it? It's it's temporary. It's a shorter.
It's a short term.
Yeah, short term. 6, probably even 12 months if it's stretched at that. So it's like in London, I think that those things are more like, it might not be called a HMO, but there's places still available. It's much more condensed, isn't it?
That was funny. We had a tenant that moved in and literally walked into the bedroom and went, "Oh my God, this is massive." And I was like, "Where have you been living?" And they were like, "In London." I had the cupboard and it was like £1,000. And I was like, Jesus, you don't think of it like that.
Yeah, so it's totally different. It's totally different wherever. But like I know in the Midlands, there's a lot of demand. There's a lot of people doing it. But the whole competition thing, what is the competition? Because there are various standards in terms of what the end product is as well. Some kind of liquor paint, put a bed in it, and that's a place. Other people are doing grand, excellent finishes.
Is the standard of accommodation lifting in the HMO market as a general trend?
I think so.
I'm not sure about general trend. I'm not sure about
I think so, just in regards to like now that it's been getting wider spread and there's a lot of people doing it and getting into it, it's then becoming an expected thing by tenants. Like even students now want the hotel finish HMOs because they've seen them or they've stayed in them and they're like, I don't want to live in a place like that anymore. So it's forcing either the landlords that owned the ones that were quite shoddy to either renovate it or sell it, which is great in both ways for them and us.
Or make or really struggle.
But the saturation thing, I just don't agree with it. I don't think it exists. I think it does if you're saturated with a load of rubbish houses that really need work. But in my area, for example, they're saying market rents and no rents will go any higher than £350, £400 a month, whereas we're achieving £650 on some of ours on that exact street where next door it may be this. It's not about there's a maximum rent that you can get in an area, this is the ceiling. It's like Mark always says, A house is worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. That's it. A house is worth rent that somebody is willing to spend on it due to the service and level that you provide. So I think definitely HMO is a great market. Do it properly. Analyse the numbers. Like Mark said, it can work anywhere. We've got people like that doing it very well in like Kent areas and London and things like that. The rent's higher, so you just have to analyse it a bit differently. That's all.
Okay, great. Well, Tricia, we're going to move on to your question now. Tricia, during the recent election period, much has been talked about in terms of making the rental market fairer. Rent controls, property inspections, longer leases and higher security of tenancy have all been suggested. If these additional controls are brought in, what effect does the panel think it will have on the buy-to-let market? And I say that because I think I know what's at the back of the questioner's mind here. We've had the Section 24 tax changes, we've had the government really doing an awful lot to put off the smaller investor in buy-to-let properties. They're looking for institutional investors, they're looking for the big investors to take big blocks and turn them into rental product. What do you think?
Yeah, so to have like I think it's nice to have a more secure tenant or a more long-term. I don't really do buy-to-lets unless it's like a multi-unit in a dwelling, because then it's like multi-rooms. So it's like a house of multiple occupation, but just being in a buy-to-let. I think, yeah, being more secure. I don't like the idea of the ceiling of the rent because based on the expenditure changing, being open to variable change in that, where as me as a landlord, for example, if the bedroom tax situation was to come in council tax, if the VOA came in and said, right, okay, now we're going to charge you per room on your council tax in your HMO, which is one dwelling, I would then want to pump my rents up because I'm not going to cover that. It's my cash flow gone. So it's a challenging one. I don't like the idea of controlled rents.
I think the idea of rental caps is dangerous because people tend to treat that as the minimum rather than the maximum, don't they? All aspire to get there.
That would be okay. And again, on the property, because if the landlord's not making any money, he hasn't got enough to be maintaining it correctly and effectively and running it like a service and a business. Yeah, I think it would, no, again, like these silly things, my opinion, that they keep doing to bring in that are just not, it's not a win-win for everybody. It's like trying to take from one and deliver to the other. It's like a Robin Hood situation for property.